Hello and welcome back to the KC Dota channel. We got no intros, no nothing, no funny business today. We're heading straight in to the tier list, the power rankings for TI12. We've got a lot of teams to go over and a lot of predictions to make, so there ain't no time for fluff. Let's get right into it. So as per usual, we got our black logo teams there at the bottom because obviously we won't be able to see them in their normal placement. And let's explain the tiers today. Yes, it's S, A, B, C, D tier. All the same as per usual in every tier list video, but I wanna define what these things mean today, right? My S tier teams, there's not gonna be a lot of them, right? Spoiler alert. Is teams that have a legitimate case to win TI and have no flaws in their teams. They have every box you can tick needed to win TI is there to win it. Now that doesn't mean they're guaranteed gonna win TI, but from all the knowledge we have in the past year, they have the best shot for it. Your A tier teams is your legitimate contenders who also very likely could win TI, have great players and such. But the reason that they A tier, not S tier, is they all have a weakness, a flaw, something that makes their case not as great as your S tier teams. Your B tier teams is teams that also, again, similar to A tier teams where, they're good teams, they can be great teams, they can beat any team from S, but they also have weaknesses where it's like, this team throws a lot. This team, very bad in certain matchups. This team, they have glaring weaknesses in their team, despite being great teams. Your C tier, it teams that aren't really that good, but, have shown signs of life in the past. Maybe they can do something here, but I wouldn't have too much hope for them. And your D tier teams are just, bad teams, probably out first in groups. So that's the layout for this video. So to give an example of this, I'm going to list one team of each tier to start off the video. So with A tier, the team that really personifies what A tier means would be Team Liquid. I think they kind of had their Prince season, the year where Michael Jackson won all the damn Grammys and Prince came in second. They played Prince to gaming gladiators, Michael Jackson winning 4 majors, 5 majors, however many damn tournaments in a row this year. And, Team Liquid were always the team to lose to them. Now, the reason that they are an A tier team and not an S tier team to me is that although they've been great, at many times this year, I honestly think, in all-time rankings and things, they actually have an underrated season. Like, you could look back in the history and be like, wow, this team really performed on a consistent basis and got big results, beat many of the big teams, etc. I think it's been a weird year of Dota overall, and BetBoom got thrown out of Bali Major. A lot of teams like Tundra, for example, had players taking breaks. It's just been a weird year in Dota, and I feel like, Team Liquid, they just sort of, wasn't their best year either. They just sort of were there with the experience and the skill of their players, just kept on fighting in the games they were in, and sort of made it as kind of the second best team this year at a lot of points. So I don't think they're a clear bona fide S tier team because they haven't shown that, so many, second place finishes, but not any tournament wins. But I do think, I don't care about the Dream League season 21 results. They've played trash at Dream League the whole year. When they come to the tournament, they've had a lot of time to prepare. Their players are really good. I don't know what team atmosphere is like there right now, but if all things come together, I wouldn't be surprised to see Team Liquid in the top 4 finals. Win it, I don't know, but they're definitely one of the top contenders for sure. The first team I want to put in B tier, I think that's a controversial pick. Some people will have them much higher. They were my favorite team to start watching this season. I enjoyed, I supported, but they do not make A tier for me. They've broke my heart too many goddamn times, and that's fucking 9 Pandas. So, to my explanation of the tiers, right? 9 Pandas is a team that we've seen go toe-to-toe with any team. They can beat any team, right? But they're also the biggest throwers I've ever seen. Maybe not ever in all time, but in this year's Dota case, it's been horrific. It's actually been horrific. I mean, if Dota 2 was a game of who has the most 10k leads by 20 minutes, I think 9 Pandas would be an all-time team. They'd be as successful as that, TI7, TI8 year VP team where they just dumpstered the whole year. Because Every game you see 9 Pandas. Oh, they come out of the laning stage. Oh, Kiyotaka's 4-0. Oh, Ramsey doing so good, and somehow they just manage to bottle it all and throw it all away and lose the game in the end. And they do it on a consistent basis. So it's not like a out thing, oh, they throw, they this, they that. They just, they're not, I don't know what's the right word, a consistent team, but they are consistently throwy. They're just not they don't have everything in line. And I think one of their biggest weaknesses, and it's sad to say, I don't want to be like shitting on a young player, but like Kiyotaka is honestly, I don't think you can be winning Dota 2 right now when you have a mid player that's that unstable. I mean, there's so many games where he can legitimately be 10-0, he overextends, he dies 2-3 times on Storm Spirit, going like way too far, and then it's just like, yo, the kill bounty your opponents are getting is like 1,000 gold every single time, maybe in total gold even more. He's so difficult to win. Then I think Ramses is also kind of like a topsy-turvy like carry player as well. He's a bit like Darakio, plays very aggressive, farms in aggressive areas, fights a lot, can end up dying more than a more conservative carry like TA2000 for example. But I don't think it's like that far gone where Kiyotaka is just like extreme, and Ramses is also aggressive, so you have two very aggressive core players. It just doesn't work. I don't think, unless Kiyotaka really changes his game coming into TI12, I don't think 9 Pandas are serious contenders to win the tournament. But again, the talent is there. We've seen them perform at a very high level. If all things go according to plan, there could be some upsets. If they can get their throwing in order, they could do well. So we'll see. For the C tier, I'm gonna let me go to D tier first, and then we'll go to C tier. I guess we can do them all in order anyhow, right? We got Vivo Kid, and we got Thunder Awakened. Now you're gonna get people be like, oh, you haven't watched South America the whole year. These teams are good for this reason and that reason, etc. And I agree, right? I haven't. I live in Kuala Lumpur in Malaysia. How the fuck am I going to watch South American with that time zone and that shit? Man, I could have went back and watched the replays. But the fact of the matter is, in South America, the only teams that have made it through the qualifiers has been Beast Coast and Evil Geniuses. They've had a down year, in my opinion, as well. So we haven't seen this team on international competition before. South American teams, Southeast Asian teams, many teams struggle first time going to TI. If I'm wrong and these teams are good, I'm happy. Like, I want to see the underdogs achieve. I'm a big fan of the SA region, but right now we haven't seen anything to know if they're good. Like, the SA qualifier also was one of the weaker qualifiers because they had 2 slots, rightfully so, and EG and Beast Coast made it through. But the other teams, again, we haven't seen enough to know whether they're good or not. So, as it stands right now, Vivo Kid and Thunder Awakened are on D tier. According to Knoxville's Glico rankings and stuff, they also sit right there. And then for C tier, again, I feel like, people are going to get upset with this, but I don't want to be putting these teams there. But I feel like both Beast Coast and Evil Geniuses this year have been too inconsistent, right? There's times where you watch an EG game and you're like, oh man, Pakaz is the best carry player in the world. He's going to dumpster through. They're going to do this, they're going to do that. Yeah, they had a poor showing in Bali, but then in Riyadh it was a bit better. So EG have shown they can do better, right? So if they perform at a B tier or even A tier level, there shouldn't be any shock because honestly, they are that good. But over consistent, like overall performance through the year, EG gets a C tier from me. And Beast Coast is a similar thing where I think they just, I don't know, I think I said it's one of my previous tier list videos for either Riyadh or Bali, where it's like they consistently just a average team. Like, they never perform badly, they never perform greatly. Like, they always perform slightly above average, actually, I should say. Like, they'll struggle in the first few days in groups, then they somehow beat like fucking, GG, BetBoom, all the good teams, and then they get like a 5-5 record, they play a tiebreaker match to qualify to main stage, to make it to main stage, and then they lose like some 2-1 tough game against any good team in the world. So I think the quality again is there, and I think Beast Coast could really do well at TI because they have this like, their whole game is like, you playing a game on a tightrope where you play like it's mega long, prolonged team fights, late game team fights. This is what they're really good at. So I rate Beast Coast, honestly, I have them in C tier, but again, if they, just like EG, I think EG, if they do well, they're going to really look like a dominant team and like smack teams up because that's the way they play. But Beast Coast, they're gonna look like an underwhelming team, but they could beat your favorite teams like straight up just because they're so good at late game team fighting. And also, I'm a massive fan of their new carry player, Jim Park. He's Parker, whatever you want to call him. He's a fucking psychopath, straight up. Like, he just plays his own shit, super weird. It's just insane, and it works. It works. So I love to see a player like that. And I think Beast Coast, even though they're a C-tier team, like you could say there was disappointing games and stuff this year, I still enjoyed watching them, to be honest. I think from these two SA teams, maybe EG I'm a bit more disappointed in too, because more disappointed in them because they have actually looked dominant at times. So yeah, I hope these two teams do well, Beast Coast and EG, but for now, I don't think they crack any higher than C-tier for me. Next team I want to talk about, where should we go? Let's go to NA for a bit. We're going to put Nouns in. I mean, I think a lot of people will say C-tier, but I will keep it in D-tier. Maybe a controversial pick, but I don't know. They actually did look good at Bali. I think if they are in D-tier, they're going to be the best D-tier team on offer. For now, we'll keep it like that. I think Nouns could be C-tier also, but you know what? I'm always one to underrate NA. I have to shit on them. It's just the way things go. You can't break tradition for now. SMG, this team, some would say A tier. They legit just went and got Mind Control now in off lane. Heen was announced coaching them. They did dominate through the C qualifiers, and I actually made a joke when I saw no one going there. I was like, wow, imagine like no one gets there and they just dumpster the SEA qualifiers. And lo and behold, that shit actually happened. So I rated them quite highly in the qualifiers, and they even exceeded my predictions there. But I think going to TI, they're a team you really have to fear. Like, I'm not going to put them A tier. I'm going to put them B tier just because we haven't seen that much time of them playing together, because they were a new team with no one there in the qualifiers, where they had a great performance, and then now they got to stand in with Mind Control as well. But like, your standing is Mind Control. Your mid player is no one. Mid one is coming back into form, and Heen is your coach. This team is fucking cracked, man. Like, I think they're really, really good. So just on overall performance, I think it would be a disservice to other teams, who've had consistent performances throughout the year. I won't put them in A tier, but I'm gonna rate this team. Like, I think they're gonna beat your favorite teams at TI. Like, I think they're gonna have performances that are gonna surprise you, because they even in the C qualifiers, like, I've been, like, myself and a lot of people who have been involved in Southeast Asia have been criticizing C teams for being boring, for playing slow, for doing similar concepts over and over again, and SMG just didn't give a fuck. They came in and they played their own Dota. They could play super aggressive with mid one, Monkey King, Gyro, that sort of thing. Or they could just play it slow. Like, they had a game where they played. It was one of the best games I actually seen to like really exemplify that part of the patch, where it was, TB and Naga Siren they had on the team. They had a pos 1 TB and a pos 3 Naga Siren. And it's just like, these guys are actually not going to lose this game. It's impossible for them to lose this game, because they control the map so hard and they farm so much, and you have these two massive illusion cores. I know it was just tough for, I can't remember who they were playing against, to just come back. It was actually a close game though, as CE is, the team fights are crazy and shit, but it was a fun game to watch. I think SAG is really a team to watch. Maybe I should just be bold and put them in A tier, like straight up, but I feel like it could be a hot take. It could look good in future, but I think, like, in terms of consistent rankings, I think they fit the bill for B tier as well. I can't tell you exactly what their weaknesses are, because again, we haven't watched them play that much. So the weakness is lack of experience and joint time together. But man, SMG guys, watch this fucking team at TI. Also, I just want to talk about Heen coaching for a minute. Obviously, MC, we know how good he is. Through the years, how he's carried OG when he stood in and such. But Heen coaching, and I think coaches in general at TI 12 is a really big deal, because you have breaks now for the first time in TI. TI is going to be played over like a month. You got your group stage, then your first thing of playoffs, then your finals and whatever, and it's 1, 2, 3 weekends it's based off. So there's time to actually go back, sit, look at replays, analyze your opposing teams, look at the matchups, analyze the meta, figure out heroes, see what your opponents are playing in their pubs and such. Because everybody will be in Seattle playing NA pubs. I think there's a real big value in coaches this year where it's not like usual TI where it's like, yo, 1 week, so much Dota being played, things evolve like so naturally and you just have to adapt on the fly. I think now is actually time to be like, hey, let's go back, let's reset and analyze what we can do better. And I think coaching is going to be a big deal, and having a guy like Keen is massive. Next up, we can go to VP. I think Knoxville Glico ratings. Let me actually just check here. Had them like higher than Nouns, Tundra, Awakened, Vivo, Key Stars, but that's where the highest they were. They went below SMG. SMG were also low in the Glico because, for the first half of the year, they were freaking trash. But VP do not make C tier for me. They're actually behind Nouns in D tier as well. I mean, the Eastern European region was super competitive. Everybody's like, oh, Western EU is so tough. But like Eastern EU on the top end is fucking insane. You have BetBoom, 9 Pandas, Team Spirit. Like, who the hell is gonna be like drop from that? I mean, you have 3 really good teams there. So VP always like coming like 4th there consistently. They look pretty decent region to region. But they did play in that BetBoom tournament in the qualifiers and they looked very underwhelming. In Riyadh, they also had a chance to make it to the play-ins. Again, they looked underwhelming. So they've had opportunities on the big stage besides just the DPC, and they've underwhelmed. So I don't really rate them high. They have good players. They've had good performances and stuff. But they haven't shown me anything special to be like, wow, BetBoom is really gonna, VP is really gonna go and do something important. And I think for that, they go in D tier and they go behind Nouns because, again, at Bali, Nouns actually showed, hey, we can go toe-to-toe with teams, So shout out Nouns. Still D through NA, but yeah, they're all right. Next team we're going to talk about. All right, should we go to China now? I think both my Chinese picks are going to be controversial. So let's start with LGD. PSG, LGD, we got in B tier. Although they've been good throughout the year, for the most part of the year, they've been the best Chinese team. Asta actually also did have very good performances, and before they, colossal meltdown in the qualifiers. But LGT haven't been really consistent in the latter half of the year. They really seem to struggle, and I feel like a Chinese team, when they look good but don't reach the expectation they're supposed to have, is like the most doomed thing you'll ever see, because the community is just so savage in China. Like you have the pressure of being the best in China. You're falling short of that. All that negativity and disappointment and stuff from the passionate community of the fans all lays on you. And I think China, LGD did show really good things at times. They played aggressive. Nothing to say was one of the first Primal Beast main guys. They've had these good games. They were playing the Broodmother. They had a lot of good things going for them, but they've always fallen short, and it's progressively got a little bit worse as the years gone on. And I feel like that really has a big effect. I don't know what their preparation was like going into TI 12, and that could be a key thing as well. And again, they do have Zhao 8 still, who many consider the best coach in China. Some could consider him the best coach of all time. Your hardcore China Dota fans would sort of make that case, or at least top 3, top 5. And I think again, they still are a Zhao 8 team. They still have good players. I think maybe the pressure's a bit off them now with Azure Ray coming in, taking all the limelight with all your classic guys, your Maybes, your Chalice. Who's the guy I'm missing now? Am I going crazy? FY, of course, the Prince of Dota, my favorite fucking player. It's just a brain gap, guys. I didn't forget he was there. So maybe there is hope for LGD. And again, with the way the coaching works now, right? Where you have these breaks, if they're doing decent in the groups, they make it to the next stage. Zhao 8 is gonna have tactics ready for these guys to succeed. So yeah, I think they don't make it to A tier for me. They don't have that clear thing that makes the team great, and the weaknesses also show. So I think a B tier team is fine for LGD. Oh, let's do some of these black logo teams here as well. Quest, I think, is a team I was quite high on this year. With Tamar there, then he left. Then there was a stand-in. They were good with the stand-in at Riyadh. Then the qualifiers came. They weren't the first team to make it through EU qualifiers, which surprised me, with Entity really, showing a lot of strength in the qualifier. They look much better with Gabby being in the team as opposed to how they were before. And now Quest do have Toby standing in. I don't think it's like the best stand-in. I think Danog said it well. It's like, who's left, and I think that's what comes into place. But I feel like maybe your off-lane player doesn't really have to be the best stand-in ever for Quest, because you have a star player in like Noob, who's quite a late game orientated scaling core player in mid, and you have this fucking monster in TA 2000 in the carry, where it's like, yo, this guy, he really reminds me of like an old school, burning, Sylar, like hyper carry, where he plays these late game heroes, your Nagas, your TBs, your anti-mages, and he really does carry. Like, I think I really rate him highly. I'm a very big fan of him, and I think this Quest team is quite good also. Shout out Kaori and Omar, the support duo there is fantastic as well. They also have their own way they play. They're also quite aggressive from a support point of view. So I think Quest are good. I think Quest are very good. I don't know. I think they're better than B tier, but I don't know if they're A tier. So I don't know if I'm going to put them at the top of B or give them an A slot, to be perfectly honest, because I just feel like the team also lacks experience. Like, I feel like they haven't had TI, performance TI stages before. I don't know if they went and got a coach now. Correction, they do have a coach. Dahak is now joining the fray, so he's up there with Quest. So again, I think a lot of people will have Quest as a A-tier team. Again, if you go back and look at Knoxville's Glico rankings, he has them, I think, 1, 2, 3, 4, fifth best ranking team overall, taking all the data from the season. Again, some of that was Amar. Some of the games they played with stand-ins, I think the most recent Dream League, so they could have had even a better performance there, but it kind of brings them down. They've been consistently a really good team. So I think I could be wrong underrating them here at B tier, because I think, the data, the logic, everything suggests that they are actually an A tier, top tier team. But I don't know. I just don't have a feeling that this team is about to pop up and do something. It just could be my bias because Amar's not there anymore. I'm not sure, but I'm going to leave Quest at B tier for my rankings for now. Next team I want to talk about is Talon Esports, straight to A tier. They're just a great team. I mean, they've got scaling core players. They're very good at the lanes. They just are all around really good Dota 2 team. I think at Dream League their performance is a bit weaker than what we've seen previously. They finished 6th in their group. They went 0. They didn't win a single game. They just went straight out. That's not great, but I feel like, it's been a long year. This last Dream League, you can't read too much into the results there. I mean, it's that the results are important for some teams, but I think it's kind of a double standard, if you're looking, some teams is important, some teams is not important. But I think for Talon, I'm not too worried about that. I think if they come in as prepared as they should be for TI, I think they're going to be one of the best teams. They were one of the best teams the whole year, and I don't think it should be any different at TI. In Tweety, Savage, and Mikoto, in Ollie, and the boys, all of them we trust. Like, this is a good fucking team, guys. That's that for Talon. Let's go to Tundra, another A-tier team. I think they do belong in the A-tier. A lot of people are actually quite... So, if you look at me, I underrate a lot of EU teams. And I think a lot of people, in my opinion, overrate EU teams. But I think Tundra is actually quite underrated. They've had a very tumultuous year where, you come off the back of winning TI. It's always a struggle for a lot of teams. But also, Saksa has been out of the lineup. He's been having struggles with mental health and things. And he's sort of wasn't there and such. So they've had that struggles. They've had a lot of, I think one of the tournaments at the beginning of the year, they've had to play a stand-in for 33, if I'm not 100% mistaken. I've had a lot of guys come in and out of their, great core 5 lineup. And I think the loss of Saksa is a big one, right? It's a really big loss. So overall, I don't think it's a good thing that, a lot of people are hyped, Thompson's there. It is great. We'll get to that just now. But I think, Saksa is that good. I really think he's one of the best Pulse 4 players in the world, straight up. And I think people really underrate just how good he is and what an impact he makes there. But unfortunately, he's not going to be there for them. And I'm glad he's actually stopping, taking a break. And he's a TI champion, back when you actually had monetary value of winning TI. So he's good. Take your break, King. Come back when you're ready. So with Tundra, we obviously have Thompson coming in and 9 moving to Pulse 4. I don't actually see any issues with 9 going to Pulse 4. We look at BetBoom, which we'll get to next. They obviously, Tokyo came in there, started playing support. So, these mid players are the most technically the most technical players, the most mechanical players, the most gifted players. If they say they're going to do something like pass 4, which is also another technical mechanical role, it's going to be fine. Like straight up, I mean, these guys are brilliant Dota players. Nine has been okay as pass 4, and Thompson has been great. He's Thompson, like fuck it, like who gives a shit? Like he's gonna do his thing. He's also that crazy space making carry, whatever. Just let him play by himself. Even if he's 0-5 in lane as Monkey King or some shit, he's still gonna go do things. And I think that's perfect for Tundra, who have Skidder, who's like this big core. You know, those guys are a carry player, similar to TH2000 or even more extreme. Like he's just gonna jump in there, bust shit up and do his thing. He's a great late game carry, and Tundra a very good late game team. They don't mind going to the late game. They don't mind playing 100-minute games. That's what they're ready to do, and I think at TI, to have the composure to play late game Dota is a massive factor at TI. So I believe with Thompson settling into roster now for like 1 or 2 months, stepping into TI, Awi obviously is a great coach. Again, we're speaking about the values of coaches. I think Tundra legitimate contenders for TI. Yes, they haven't had the best season, but let's see what they do. Like I'm not gonna write them off just yet. Let's go to BetBoom next. I'm going to all the exciting teams here. I haven't ranked A tier just yet as well. I'll rank it at the end to see who's the best A tier and who's the not best A tier. But BetBoom, you know, I think this squad, player for player, one of the most talented rosters we've ever had. Like just straight up, they're a great team. On just player for player standard. I mean, let's look at that. You have genuinely like star players in every slot in the role. So I think, you know, if you're looking back at Dota history, like player for player, this team is an all-time team, honestly, just on pure skill alone. But I think, you know, they're not a B tier team. They're definitely not a B tier team. They have the potential to be an S tier team, but they sit in A tier for me because as good as all these players are, they don't, as a team, they don't have what it takes. Kind of like, don't have what it takes. The opposite of OG, you know. OG in TI8 was the perfect story of like overcoming difficult circumstances, you know. Team broke up, new team coming together, fight through a tough qualifier. Mental fortitude is their biggest asset, and that's how they went and won to TI. BetBoom is the opposite of that. They're a really good team. They're much better than a lot of oppositions. A lot of the games they win, they dominate. But when the going gets tough, they start to fight, they start to crumble, they have silly things going on. Like they're not the most, you know, mentally strong, put together team. And I think that's really important at TI. I mean, the best way to explain the issues with fucking BetBoom is that they have 4 core players, like 4 carry or mid players. Like you just think about your pubs, think about, you know, competitive Dota, think about, you know, your core players are not the players going to be like, yo guys, let's chill, let's smoke up, let's, you know, let's regroup, let's go do this thing and win one small skirmish together and come back. Your core players are like, oh fuck this, I'm AFKing, game's over, you know. Not that they like, you know, doing that, but I don't think, you know, you have that voice like a puppy, a no-tail, or somebody to like, let's calm down, boys. Let's put things. Let's gather ourselves and get back together. Come back after this loss or something like that. So I think they're really in tip-top, greatest form ever, and they could probably smash through the whole TI. You know, it's a possibility. But I think, you know, to have a run that has 0, you know, things go wrong happen is not realistic. And I think when the adversity comes, BetBoom are not gonna rise above. But they still are legitimate contenders. They've been one of the best teams this year, but I don't see them winning the TI. Next team we can go to is Entity, another EU team. Personally, I do not even want to put them at C or B tier. Actually, no. Officially, I'll put them at C tier, the top of C tier. Give them the credit. Because I haven't been high on this team. If you look at the total results over the year, they've been a rubbish team. They've been an aggressively mid team. I mean, they didn't hardly ever qualify to big events. When they got a chance to play in events like Riyadh, they bombed out in the play-ins. They were quite underwhelming for the entirety of the year. But, you know, till later after of the year, obviously Toby went out. I think it was Toby was the offlaner, and Gabby came in. Gabby had a monstrous impact on this team. I mean, Quest did come through. Entity came through first in the qualifiers. They made a decent showing at Dream League, beating Gaming Gladiators in the playoffs. They really showed like really good strength. But I'm again sticking to my guns where I don't want to put too much emphasis on one tournament. Like I think Dream League, not because everyone's like, it's like too far at the end of the, all the majors are played, everything is played, people are burnt out, nobody's really bringing their best foot forward to Dream League when TI is just across. So I don't think Dream League is like the be all and end all, even though they had a good performance there. They did also qualify through first in the EU qualifiers, but I think again, like I think it was a bit overhyped how good the Western EU qualifiers were. Like I think Quest was a really good team, maybe the best team playing in the qualifiers all around. But EU Nigma wasn't great. I think they went out super early. Secret were kind of underwhelming. So Entity did well though. They did well. I think most people would most likely have them in B tier. People would rarely rate them, could put them in A tier. But I think when the going, like with every team coming as prepped as they can be for TI, I don't think Entity is going to be in my contenders list. But if they are in C tier, they're the best of the C tier teams. I'll give them that. Next team we're going to talk about now. This is another team, Shopify Rebellion, who I could have put C tier. Like, it's going to sound hypocritical because I'm saying, Entity had an okay performance at Dream League, but I don't really rate it that high, so they still C. But I'm going to put, despite their absolutely awful, awful year, Shopify Rebellion still gets to be tier for me. They've been rubbish the whole year. Let's not mince my words here. They've been rubbish the entire year. They've underperformed. All they've had going for them is that they played in NA. That's it. They've bombed out at every single major tournament. They've had like some really embarrassing performances, like bombing out of groups and stuff in certain Dream Leagues and things. But, at the final, right before TI, they've decided now to, have a good result. They finished second place. There's no shame in losing to Spirit. They had a good performance at Dream League. Now, I don't even rate them at like highly in B tier. I don't want to, again, put too much emphasis in one performance because we saw them the whole year and it did look underwhelming. But I will give them some credit to say that, there's something to be said about peaking at the right time. So if now their confidence is high, if now they're feeling like, we're ready for TI, we're feeling mentally, physically, everything ready, the players in this team are exceptional. RTZ, Arbed, Crit, Fly, this is a good fucking team. So, everything comes together. They could do well, but I'm not going to put them like top of B tier or A tier because, again, like everything comes together, yes, but they're also a team known for choking at TI, like straight up. Like they're not big mentality, big match, There's nothing fantastic about Shopify Rebellion, in my opinion, this season. But I think they are starting to peak at the right time. So they still make it to B. They don't fall to C for me. Next team is TSM. I hate NA teams, but for the, if we're putting Shopify Rebellion in B tier, these guys can't go any less than C tier because, again, they did have a good performance at BetBoom Dacha. They've had some decent performances, at the beginning of the year at Lima, if I wasn't mistaken. So they have shown signs of quality, but again, fuck NA teams. I don't rate them. So I'll put them here in C tier. I don't know if I'll put them better than the, South American teams, Evil Geniuses and Beast Coast. It's contentious. Everybody can decide who's the best in C tier and who's not, but I don't have any of these teams as like, wow, like, I'm going to support the South American teams just because of my own bias. So if you think these teams are better, good for you, but I still leave them in C tier. Last few teams we got, let's go to Azure Ray, third last. They're going into A tier for me. Now, this could be mad copium huffing, right? We have 9 Pandas, LGD, Quest, like all in B tier. We have Entity in C tier. How am I gonna like put Shopify Rebellion, Azure Ray in A tier? Simply put, like they just got that thing in them, The Dota they played was good, solid. FY in particular at Bali, like look really good, hard carrying this team. They carry player, I think, Lou, obviously everybody talks about, Somnus, FY, Chalice, whatever. But I think Lou has been really good. I think in the TI qualifiers, he really got to show his mettle. Like he said, he was happy when teams banned Naga and TB, so he could show he can play other heroes. I think they've got a good mix of like young guns. Lou, I don't know what they support, the other support player's name is, their past 5 player. But he's really good too. I just don't know his Chinese name. And I think like they these guys, they have the good mix. They have the super experienced TI, like contending players, legends of the Dota 2 scene, Chalice, FY, Somnus. And then you have young blood who are showing like real talent and promise. I think that's a good mix. Also, you do have that same thing like LGD and Shopify Rebellion, where it's like, yeah, these players are great, they're legend, they're also known for choking. I think that is a real thing. But I feel like, Somnus, these guys have all been talking a lot in Azure Ray, but they've been backing up the results. They won the qualifier, they did decent at Bali. So I think if all things go according to plan, they have Lanham as coach, who they say is the second best coach in China after Zhao 8. I think, Azure Ray are like really, I think they contenders, genuinely speaking. I mean, it could go all wrong. They could bomb out, old men, their back stiff and shit. But looking at the performances we've seen so far, I think no team's going to want that smoke, So shout out Azure Ray. I'll be rooting for y'all at TI. The last two teams I have are the only teams I think are S tier teams. The teams that have no flaws. They 1 to 5 plus coach good is Gaming, Gladiators 1, and obviously Team Spirit. We'll get to them next. Now, Gaming Gladiators have had, some people say, the most successful Dota 2 season of all time, but at the very least one of the most successful Dota 2 seasons of all time. You have what I like to say, like the best anchor in the world in the form of Ace. He's a true offlane player. He's not afraid to play make. He plays well in the lane. He buys the auras. You have a mid laner in Quinn who's, freaking, a very consistent player. Can dominate a lot of lanes. Can also play from behind. You have two supports in Celery and Tofu. Probably the best guys to manage these great cores. In terms of Tofu, who has that, that personality and, that calming spirit for the team. He can talk to the guys. He can make calls in the late game. You have Celery, a great pass 4 player as well. They know how to rotate. I think as good as Quinn is, right? Again, I always like to emphasize, right? He is a great mid player. At times he looks like the best mid player in the world. But it's not just him dominating the mid lane. It's Celery and Tofu, the rotations they make, the way they play to secure his game, it's phenomenal. I mean, this team, 1 to 4 there, and then the last player, Darachio, Reddit's favorite carry player, I think is also a really great carry player. Like, he doesn't look like a way TA2000 plays, where he's like, 20-0 and like he plays super hard carry, he never dies and that kind of shit. No. He's a psychopath. He's like Ramses, he just plays aggressive in his lane. He plays aggressive in the mid game. He plays fighting heroes like Ursabe and shit. So yeah, sometimes there can be mistakes. Sometimes he can die in odd places and shit. But for the most part, right, he needs to do that because Quinn is that stable player. He doesn't make mistakes. He plays conservatively while still having a great impact. So they have that anchor in both the mid lane and the off lane, with Ace being as consistent as it is. So Darachio can be a free to play his game, right? This team is great. CY as a coach, instills the right mentality in the guys. They've had one of the best seasons of all time. They've coming into TI as one of the favorites, but also not the definite favorite, which I think is important, as we will talk about when we get to Spirit next. I think, Gaming Gladiators, they should be primed for at least the finals place, and anything less should be a colossal failure given the year they had. But that's not to say that they're failing. It's just, disappointment for how good they've been. Really, Gaming Gladiators are, I shouldn't have to make this out, right? They are the Gladiators. They that good. The last team I want to talk about is Team Spirit. Now, Team Spirit have done one thing here, right? Is they've helped Gaming Gladiators, because as good as Gaming Gladiators have been throughout the year, I think Team Spirit are the best team at TI. These guys are the favorites, actually, because Gaming Gladiators won the majority of the year, but the last big tournament of the year is what Team Spirit took. They took Riyadh Masters, which was actually going to be the biggest Dota 2 tournament of the year. I mean, TI is still TI, don't get me wrong, guys. And they took the this past Dream League in extremely dominant fashion. So they are now the best team at the most important part of the season, and I think for that makes them the favorite. So I think there's a bit of a weight off Gaming Gladiators, because they don't have to have the title of favorites, because we know the reputation of favorites at TI. But I mean, I don't think any team is gonna want to see this team spirit smoke in this tournament. I mean, these guys are. There's just too many things good about them, right? Like, they have creative drafting. They have a carry player who is like the literal god of carries. Fucking Yatoro, insane. Lau, who's, he struggled. He had struggles and stuff. But now he's comfortable. He can have these games where he can be 0-10 and still impact the game. He plays his playmaking mids like Earth Spirit and such. They just, collapse off-lane player, freaking monster, team fight beast, which is exactly what you need, right? Everything is coming into play for Team Spirit to look like the best team at this tournament. I think they already showed the big match mentality through this year, where they dominate the games that they can, and they won big tournaments. They previous TI champions, where they've already got through. Last year was a rough year. Russia, Ukraine, roster swaps, all that kind of stuff. They've gone through that. They've already gone through the TI winning hangover stuff. They've had struggles in the year that they've overcome. So weaknesses, I don't think they have any. And strengths, they have an abundance. So this is my list. I think to adjust, I think at B, the best team in B tier, let's give respect to Quest. Quest, LGD, LGD, 9 Pandas, and then I'll have a Shopify, SMG, and then Shopify. For A tier, I think the best team in A tier is still BetBoom. Maybe Liquid, maybe Talon. I don't know. It's very hard in A tier. I think all these teams are legitimate contenders. C tier, I'm pretty happy with the layout tier. D tier, all these guys are going home in the groups anyway, so who cares? But yeah, that's my prediction in terms of who's going to win TI. Let's go Azure Ray. Nah, I'm kidding. The best team to beat here is definitely Team Spirit. Gaming Gladiators right behind them. And everybody else, got a lot to prove. So I hope you enjoyed this tier list. And let's get ready to watch TI. Bye-bye.